Well, President Trump heads to Hamburg, Germany later this week, where he's expected to attend a G20 nation summit. This following a phone call with Chinese President Xi Jinping yesterday, ending a tense week in U.S.-China relations, where the two leaders reaffirmed their commitment to a denuclearized Korean peninsula. Meanwhile, President Trump preparing to meet face-to-face with Russian President Vladimir Putin at that meeting, where Syria is sure to be on the docket. So let's bring in Jim Carafano. He's the vice president for the Davis Institute for National Security and Foreign Policy at the Heritage Foundation. Thank you for joining us.
Good to be with you.
So President Trump had back-to-back calls, not only with the leader of China, but also the prime minister of Japan. And the goal of those phone calls, roughly 35-minute phone conversation, was to make sure that the two leaders are on the same page ahead of the G20 summit. Why is that important, and how important is that?
Well, you know, Trump has kind of flipped the tables, and he's playing rope-a-dope with the Chinese and the Russians. You know, before the Chinese would promise and then do nothing. So at Mar-a-Lago, the Chinese promised and did nothing. And so what the administration said to do is, yeah, we're going to work with the Chinese. And then we did a freedom of navigation operation in the South China Seas, which they hate. We sold arms to Taiwan, which we hate. And we sanctioned Chinese, which we hate. And then Trump gets on the phone and tells the Chinese, hey, let's work together. So what he's done is send them a very powerful message that, you know, we can talk all we want, but look, we're going to protect U.S. interests, and you need to get on the stick.
Yeah, there's those sanctions against a Chinese bank specifically that does business with North Korea. But what about the importance of having Japan and China on the same page, working with us?
Well, I don't think, well, look, China's never going to work with us, But again, he's playing rope-a-dope with the Chinese. The fact that he calls the Japanese, who are our strongest allies in the region, and reaffirms that bilateral tie, and he just met with the South Koreans and had a pretty successful meeting and reaffirmed the bilateral tie. Those are all very subtle messages to the Chinese, like, dude, you are not getting your way in this theater, and you need to start playing ball.
Yeah, so honor those sanctions, amongst some other things. So let's move on to the meeting that is planned between President Trump and Vladimir Putin, being told that they will focus heavily, possibly on Syria and the Ukraine, but at the same time being told that it will be an open-ended meeting. So is that dangerous? What do you expect them to address?
I expect a nothing burger. I don't expect anything to come out of this meeting, quite honestly. Look, they may talk about the Ukraine and Syria, but we both have pretty clearly defined interests there, and neither side's likely to give an inch. Does
it concern you that the meeting is being described as unstructured? That's another word being used.
No, not at all. I think what the president's going to use this meeting for is what really he's used all of his bilateral meetings with other leaders for, is to size up the people he's working with. Look, it's important for world leaders to do that, period, to like know who they're dealing with. It's particularly important for this president, who really does like to size up the people that he works with around the world. So that's the purpose of the meeting, I think, really not so much to get anything done.
Do you think that he should bring up the possibility of the Russian hacking into the election?
Well, this may shock you, but I think the Russians know that they hacked us, and I think they know that we know that they hacked us.
So in other words, you don't think he needs to bring that up?
No.
So the most important thing to come out of them, though, the most important thing out of the G20 completely, you said Poland?
Absolutely. First of all, I think he's going to basically play rope-a-dope with Putin. He's going to say, look, let's work together. And then if Putin doesn't deliver, I think he's going to slam him. But actually, the substantive part of this trip really is in Poland, where the president is going to meet with the heads of Poland, Croatia, the Visegrad country, and they're going to talk about key issues, including energy, which is super important for us, super important for them, and regional security, not just in the Ukraine and not just with Russia, but also what the Russians are doing in the Balkans and the Black Sea. Really important for the president to hear all that. So that's going to be substantive.
All right. Thank you so much, Jim Carafano. We appreciate you joining us today.
Thanks.
Well, meanwhile,